I'm a little sleepy myself.
What year is it?
It's no longer 1937.
Well, yeah, it's not 1937 anymore. What do you want, Rachel? A gold star? Look, times change, but women are still women. I mean, right?
Harold, you better get this carriage out of the mud!
What possibly could a modern woman have to gain from watching a movie made in the 30s with all its different, dangerous ideas about women? Well, according to a lot of angry people online, and the actresses in the new and improved Snow White, nothing. In some very thought-provoking interviews where little was said beyond letting us know how excited they were to see themselves on screen, Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot claim that the original Snow White film is extremely dated. Because Snow White doesn't have enough power, she's not proactive, it doesn't show what women are capable of, she's not fearless, brave, or true, and it's bad, or at least extremely dated, for a woman to want to be in a relationship with a man, and men shouldn't protect women because women are strong, independent girl bosses who can do it themselves.
All right, girls, go girls.
Not gonna be saved by the prince.
She's not gonna be dreaming about true love.
And there seems to be no sign of intelligent life anywhere.
Anyway, all this hullabaloo, if you will.
No, I will not.
You know, it made me very curious about rewatching the original Snow White movie and, see for myself if the accusations held up or not. Ooh, it's been years since I've seen it, and I didn't watch it that many times as a kid because, well, I wasn't allowed to watch much TV, and she wasn't my favorite princess. Look, she wasn't a mermaid, and her dress wasn't as pretty as the other princesses.
Don't girls like stuff like this?
Maybe stupid girls.
Well, with all that in mind, let's travel back to 1937 and see what these misogynistic dum-dums had to say about women. A beautiful storybook opens to reveal the prologue, and we find out that Snow White is a princess, her stepmother is vain, wicked, and jealous.
You can't just have your characters announce how they feel.
And the evil queen, the stepmother, forced Snow White to dress in rags and work as a maid. The actual story starts right out with establishing just how powerful and vain the evil queen is, with her sorcery and all. But I'm gonna say she's not that smart because she can ask the mirror anything.
Anything I want? Aha!
But she's so insecure that she has to get her slave in the magic mirror to validate her looks every day until her age catches up to her and he points out that, I don't know, maybe Snow White is better looking. Who would have thought? This makes the queen angry. Who would have thought?
That makes me feel angry.
Or maybe the mirror was just bored and trying to start something, although I do suspect he must be truthful, but I don't know all the rules of the magic here, and it's ultimately not that important to the story itself. Just something I'm going to obsess over in my free time.
You're the worst kind of autistic.
This art is really beautiful. I could look at this for an hour and a half, or, however long this movie is. Snow White is happily working, doing scullery-maid stuff, the birds all like her, which is neat, I guess, and she's indeed dressed in rags and then sings a song about longing for true love.
Which is the worst crime of all.
I feel like the introduction, while beautiful, was largely unnecessary. Everything introduced in the prologue was re-established in just these first two scenes, except that Snow White is the stepdaughter, which is important information.
It's plot exposition, it has to go somewhere.
The prince incredibly conveniently shows up, and they have their meet cute, and what in the fur affinity is this? Well, this must be that non-consensual kiss I keep hearing about. Well, Snow White and the prince are in love now.
We're in love! We're a couple in love!
This, unsurprisingly, makes the queen mad. And in what could possibly be considered an overreaction, she orders her huntsman to kill Snow White and bring back her heart to ensure that he completed the task.
And if you kill anyone, make sure to eat their heart to gain their courage.
She might be deranged, but woman's got high standards, and I respect that. Although I don't know what a heart would prove, because he could just bring any kind of heart back, like, I don't know, a pig's heart or something.
In the business, we call this foreshadowing.
The huntsman is interesting. He clearly doesn't want to be doing this. I mean, who would? Well, the queen, but However, the huntsman is also aware that the queen absolutely will kill him.
Or worse.
She rules and maintains her power through fear. Thankfully, the huntsman decides to protect Snow White anyway, probably knowing he'll die in her place, and tells her to run away. into the coolest animated forest I have ever seen. Seriously, these log alligators? Alligators?
No.
Alligators?
No.
These trees? Cool as heck. Maybe this represents her finally realizing how dire her situation actually is and the fear she's feeling? I don't know. But it's a cool forest nonetheless. Snow finally collapses in exhaustion and cries. She acknowledges her situation, but she doesn't stay there. She doesn't wallow. She picks herself up, sings a cheerful little song to the animals around her, and says that she'll manage, and looks around for ways to take care of herself. I don't know, looks like being proactive to me.
I mean, seriously, what's with you people? I'm blind!
She is kind, and so nature responds in kind, and the animals lead her to the dwarf's cottage, somewhere for her to stay. She does knock first, but then she just walks right in. Ah, reminds me of my childhood. Siblings, am I right? Snow is rightly horrified by the absolutely filthy state of the cottage and also thinks that the inhabitants are children and also thinks that it's so dirty because they don't have a mother or a female influence in their lives.
You mother!
She's partially right, well, about the female influence at least. Resourcefully using her scullery maid skills, she sings cheerfully again as she cleans the place and hopes that she'll be able to stay after proving that she has something to offer. She saw a task that needed to be done and used her natural gifts to complete it. Huh. There's a word for that. Proactive? That can't be right.
Some of that yogurt that makes old gals poop.
Stuff really works. Like, boom!
Guys, I'm so dumb.
Snow White's still cleaning when we cut to meet the children who are not children but actually dwarves. While they are hard at work, I'm not sure what they're hard at work doing. Why are they mining?
They have the time of their lives, and we get free miners.
Where do these gems go? Watch out for Rouge, I guess. But who owns this land? Why aren't they millionaires? Gems must have value or they wouldn't be wasting their time doing this. Who hired them?
Who hired this crew?
Anyways, after finishing up the workday, these cheerful fellas also sing a fun little ditty on their way home.
Hi-ho!
Back at the dwarf's cottage, Snow White's finished cleaning the house she broke into, and she seems surprised to see the bed, so it appears she didn't clean in there. But for some reason, she feels comfortable enough to fall asleep on these strange, dirty beds. She's got moxie, or something. Upon arriving at their cottage, the dwarves are very concerned that someone's in their house, which seems more than fair, and then they're suspicious and almost upset that it's been cleaned. The language they use to describe it is pretty funny. One of them says that the cobwebs are missing. A quick side note, the Foley artist for the film said that he used an old wallet to make the squeaky shoe noises, which I find quite fun.
You need an empty wallet and walk like this.
Then the birds, seeing how scared the dwarves are, decide to mess with them. Which is funny, but also interesting. The dwarves are rightfully concerned, but a little bit cowardly about the situation. They're grown men after all. And nature treats them in kind by scaring them even more. Probably nothing, but it's an interesting pattern. They send Dopey, the shaggy of the group I guess, upstairs to check it out up there, and then they get into some more shenanigans.
Welcome to Shenanigans.
And right before they're about to kill Snow White, they pull the sheet off, thankfully, and seeing that she's a beautiful girl, obviously they don't kill her. I guess that's pretty privileged for you. She tries to introduce herself and then immediately scolds them for their bad manners, and then she straight up mocks Grumpy. What a savage.
Oh, you must be grumpy.
I was awoken by the sound of mockery. Show me the object of ridicule.
Grumpy is the only sensible one though. He's not simping for her, he's suspicious, and I respect that.
She's a female, and all females is poison. They're full of wicked wiles. What's wrong? Wake her up. Oh, let her wake up. She don't belong here no how.
However, upon finding out that Snow White can make lumple-dapplins, she's more than welcome to stay. But the dwarves are not welcome to eat until they've cleaned up after themselves, and she's very firm and assertive about this. While most of the dwarves are mesmerized by Snow's beauty and go out to wash their hands before supper, mostly without question or hesitation, Grumpy, on the other hand, warns them of the dangers of toxic women. Of course, he's making sweeping generalizations and claiming that all women are like this, but he has a good point.
He's got a point.
The Evil Queen is supposedly beautiful on the outside, but we know that without a doubt, within she is everything Grumpy described and more. She's not beautiful enough to justify her personality, but she also has so much power, who's gonna stand up to her, So it makes sense to be cautious of Snow. She's beautiful, yeah, But is she beautiful on the inside too?
Do you think I'm just a pretty face?
No. I mean, yes. I mean, not fat. Definitely not fat. Is this sort of what you're looking for?
Grumpy's not taken in and fooled by her good looks like the others. She has to prove herself. And she will. Speaking of the evil queen herself, we finally get to catch up with her, and after asking the mirror to tell her she's beautiful, it not only tells her that it's still Snow White that's the fairest because she's not dead.
I'm not dead. I'm getting better.
No, you're not. You'll be stone dead in a moment.
But it also doxes her and tells the queen exactly where Snow is. The queen didn't even ask, you twat. He is trying to start something. I guess being trapped in a mirror for so long does stuff to a guy.
10,000 years!
10,000 years on it.
Will give you such a crick in the neck!
Well, all I can say is I hope the huntsman got away. These are pretty cool curtains in the palace, and man, Queen's got that drip. Well, until the transformation, which raises some questions. If you're incredibly vain, why would you turn yourself ugly on purpose? Why wouldn't you just make yourself more beautiful? Why wouldn't you just make Snow White ugly? Why not just kill her?
Not to sound evil, but it kind of sounds like they should have immediately killed her.
I mean, she did already try, but try again. And with magic this time. Okay, I have a lot of questions about the magic system, but I guess that's not the point of the story.
I will not be questioned by a woman.
The queen does say she wants a disguise no one will suspect, and to be fair, who would ever expect that she of all people would make herself ugly, so it's a baller move, really. But narratively, it also reflects who she truly is, and she is exactly who Grumpy warned us about. She's ugly on the inside and on the outside now. Consumed by her inner ugliness, this is her final form.
How do you like my true form? I hope you're not disappointed.
I've never even seen Dragon Ball, I'm such a fraud. The transformation sequence is incredibly animated. It's just beautiful to watch. These ingredients are pretty wild though. Mummy dust? Sure, okay, so that's what the kids are calling it now.
You're going to find Sonic. He is your local drug dealer.
Eggman, I found your weed supplier through your Twitter account. Thanks, man.
And how does one distill this stuff? A hag's cackle? Scream of fright? The black of night? That is unimaginable power right there. Also, the same woman does the voice of the queen and the old hag, which is pretty cool. Anyway, she mixes it all with a thunderbolt, which could be important to note, and turns into an old hag. Then for Snow White, she decides on a poison apple, which is really interesting because women choose poison as a murder weapon far more often than men do, although I guess that's not too relevant to the story, and I thought we got to see her make the poison apple here, but I guess not. Back at the dwarf's cottage, they're having a grand old time. Grumpy's butt does this thing, which I find quite amusing.
That thing!
Anyways, they're singing, dancing, and Snow sings a pretty straightforward love song in a voice so high-pitched that my dog is still howling.
Mush.
After all the festivities, they're exhausted and ready for bed. Same though. And like gentlemen, they treat her very kindly and offer Snow White the beds upstairs. But once they're alone, it is every man for himself. As someone with a lot of siblings, this scene is relatable. Look, you gotta get what getting's good or you get nothing.
No one gets anything! I leave it all to my ghost!
Snow White then prays to some unknown deity, which 30s Disney, I would assume Christianity, maybe Catholicism. But why is there Christianity in the Snow White cinematic universe? Ooh, I have so many questions about the world building here, but that's not the point. It was probably just to emphasize that Snow White's a good person and good people pray, I guess. Oh man, I love this scene. I wonder if kids were scared of extra red apples after this movie came out.
Look! On the skin! The symbol of what lies within.
A beautiful apple, the fairest of them all, if you will, that's secretly full of poison. Well, that sounds familiar.
She's a female, and all females is poison.
The queen, in her true form as the old hag, realizes the poison may have an antidote and opens up her very big book of antidotes to check. Thank goodness the print is this large, or the audience might have a hard time reading along. And if her eyes are that bad, can't she just magic them better? This isn't Encanto. We get even more of the queen's cruelty as she taunts her raven and then kicks the skeletal remains of her prisoner, and she's most likely responsible for them dying of dehydration. Well, then she's on her way to Snow White thanks to the exact coordinates courtesy of the drama-hungry magic mirror. Back at the cottage, the dwarves are all off to work.
You should work in my coal mine.
But they all warn her to stay alert and watch out for the queen. Even Grumpy is visibly concerned about her. It's a short character arc, but he's softened.
It is very strange. You're kind and good, and yet you are a woman.
With Snow White's feminine influence, he sees that she's not just a pretty face, she's a shining example of positive femininity. But even he wants a kiss on the forehead, but he won't admit it and pretends he doesn't like it. The queen continues on her way to the cottage, and Snow makes pies with the animals. That seems sanitary.
What are you, the dropping food on the ground police?
Oh, he is gonna be real grumpy when he sees it's just peas. I mean, that just doesn't seem like a great way to get someone to like you, but pop off, Snow. Thankfully, I think you've already won him over, peas or not. Okay, now what happens next is really interesting. Gosh, I sound like a clickbait title. She gives the young woman an apple. What happens next will shock you. Doctors hate her. Anyway, the reason I find this next scene so particularly fascinating is partially because it's Snow White's strengths working against her, and partially because I've seen this play out in real life. The, strengths and weaknesses part, not the evil lady turning herself into a hag and trying to kill someone with an apple. But how cool would that be? The disguised queen finds the cottage and offers Snow White the apple. Now, Snow is visibly uncomfortable here, but she's a kind person, and even though this woman is hideous and giving her bad vibes, she's not gonna ignore her or send her away. She's old!
I'm old! I can't make these kinds of impacts at my age!
She might need help, and Snow doesn't want to make her feel bad by turning her away, especially if she does need help. Now this is the interesting part. The birds try to protect her and warn her and keep her from eating the apple, but this just rouses Snow's compassion, and instead of trusting the animal friends who haven't let her down once, she shoos them away and invites the dangerous old woman in. Thankfully, the animals run off to try to get the dwarves, and after they realize what's going on, they all panic. Except for Grumpy, who's proving to be really level-headed in a crisis. Anyways, to drag things out and fool the viewer into thinking there's a chance the dwarves could make it back in time, we cut to Snow White, who is making the longest wish in the history of wishes.
Why do you talk so slow?
Oh, yeah, the queen told her it's a wishing apple, but of course the dwarves don't make it in time. It starts raining to set the mood, and they chase the queen to the edge of a cliff. Man, she's got a lot of energy for an old lady. What was her contingency plan if the dwarves were home? She didn't think about what to do if she ran into them? She's rather precariously at the edge of a cliff where she tries to roll a boulder down the path to crush their bones, but no one ends up killing anyone as nature takes her out, striking her with lightning, and she plummets off the cliff. Whose bones are crushed now? They obviously weren't in time to save Snow White, but not understanding how decomposition works, decided not to bury her because she was too beautiful. So they made her a glass coffin and I guess lost their jobs at the mine doing whatever it is they were doing, just to keep watch over Snow White. Which seems like a huge waste of time. I mean, we know she's alive, but they think she's dead, so what's watching her gonna accomplish? It's amazing the big deal people make about the prince in this movie. He's literally a stalker. He's barely on screen and barely a part of the story, guys. Anyway, he kisses Snow, even though he must think she's dead.
Wait, I'm dead? Why didn't you tell me I'm dead?
But it does awaken her from the sleeping death, and no one seems that surprised, so I guess maybe sleeping death curses and true love's kiss remedies are more common in this realm. Maybe he did his research beforehand, I don't know. However, it's not weird at all that he was looking for her. We established in the very first scene that they were in love.
I'm in love! All these feelings of love keep whipping around in my heart like the breaking waves!
It would have been weirder if he wasn't looking for her. Yeah, it does look like insta-love, but that's not the point. It's not like a YA novel where there's no progression and we're supposed to believe that these two bland, terrible, chemistry-less characters are suddenly soulmates out of the blue. It's just supposed to communicate that this is a couple. The story's OTP. It's not about them developing their relationship, and that's okay. The story had a different focus, and in regards to the kiss, consent wasn't the point.
However, I do not have her consent.
It's symbolic, and look, maybe this is a hot take or whatever, but consent culture causes way more problems than it thinks it solves.
It's always important to obtain consent.
Anyway, you know, I should probably clarify just a little bit what I mean by that. I'm not against the idea of consent at all, but the only reason people call for such drastic and yet muddled measures to ensure consent is because of our culture's current values and attitude towards sex. It's just not needed when you're in a healthy, monogamous, marital relationship where you trust each other and your priority is putting the other person first. Throughout the whole movie, we see how men and women complement each other, so it makes perfect sense that she'd end up with her man at the end.
Why he touching my man? Where he going with my man?
Well, the prince puts Snow White on his horse and they get high as balls on mummy dust and stare at the sunset until a castle appears in the clouds. They live happily ever after, the book closes, and that's it. Movie over. Well, I enjoyed that. That was a good movie. Alrighty, what do we got here? Snow White didn't have a feminist-approved amount of power. She's passive, not proactive. She didn't showcase what women are capable of. She's not fearless, brave, or true. And she fell in love, and men protected her, and that bad. Let's start with power. Based on the context, I would assume they mean political control, because power referring to acting and producing an effect would also be covered by the accusations that Snow is passive and not proactive. And as far as political power, I mean, that wasn't really the point of the movie. She might have had some influence in her castle in the sky later on, but in the rest of the movie, she didn't really have any political influence, but also that wasn't the point. She had good character, and if she did eventually have political influence, she'd be great at it. Snow White did, however, have a pretty clear message about power.
The Queen! The Queen! She's mad, jealous of you. She'll stop at nothing.
Nothing says, this is a strong and capable leader I can trust, quite like abusing your power and maintaining it through fear.
Do the tides command this ship?
No, Princess.
If I were to have you thrown overboard, would the tides think twice about smashing you against the rocky shore?
No, Princess.
Well then, maybe you should worry less about the tides, who've already made up their mind about killing you, and worry more about me, who's still mulling it over.
All right, girls, go girls!
Leadership is something you deserve. You don't earn power, you demand it.
You must gain their confidence, make them like you. How do you do that? You force them to like you, idiot!
I know that's what I learned from every Disney movie growing up.
Oh, feel the power.
I wish to be the most powerful sorcerer in the world!
And all the powers of hell! I wish to be an all-powerful genie!
So I am the ruler of all the ocean! The waves obey my every whim! Absolute power! The universe is mine to command, to control!
The new Snow White doesn't need to learn how to be a good leader. She already is one. She just has to look within herself to find out who she already was the whole time.
It's an inner journey that she goes on to find her true self.
No growth needed, as she's already perfect, just like the evil queen.
It's extremely dated when it comes to the ideas of women being in roles of power and what a woman is fit for. And Snow White has to learn a lot of lessons about coming into her own power before she can come into power over a kingdom. I will elbow everyone out of the way. I deserve to be paid for every hour that it is streamed online.
I'm just saying, I wouldn't want either of these women in power. I wouldn't want them in leadership positions if they were men. That's a terrible and concerning attitude to have. Although I guess they're marginally more coherent than America's current geriatric in chief.
Please, I'm only an elected official here. I can't make decisions by myself.
Look, I'm just a woman, so what do I know about leadership? But isn't it not about power? I think Uncle Ben says it best.
With great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah, that's what it is. Responsibility. And you know what? Snow White was really responsible. And I said if she had political influence, she'd be great at it. And it's because she naturally exudes these good qualities that you should look for in a leader. I suspect that Snow White isn't all that interested in political power, which should be totally fine, but it's also another quality that would actually make her a good leader.
She's your queen!
Oh, I'm so tired about this crap about women in power. I don't know, guys. You sound kind of like the evil queen right now. People who chase positions of power are usually interested in power itself.
He's attracted to power. So am I.
And that's a huge red flag. It shouldn't be about women in power. It should be about who's a good leader, man or woman. I'm just saying, I don't ever see feminists calling for more women trash collectors.
We can't be just as good as a man. We have to be better.
What? I love garbage. You ever found a dead body in the trash?
But by forcing diversity in this very specific area, you're not really helping anyone. I am so glad that women who are interested in leadership roles are given that opportunity now, but most women don't want that. And most people, women and men, aren't even cut out for those roles. And that should be okay. Snow White didn't want that, and that's totally fine. I support her choice. And before you come for me like, oh, she hates women, yes, I do. But that's because I hate everyone, and that's equality, baby. I don't know what you thought I meant when I said I'm glad women have the opportunity to pursue careers now if they so choose. Pop off, I guess. And do I even have to defend the claims that Snow White wasn't proactive and that she was passive and didn't do anything?
The first version of Snow White was like 80-something years ago, so it's kind of dated. Right now, Snow White is much more proactive. She's not going to be saved by the prince. She's going to, you know, get her own agency and all of that.
She's the proactive one, and she's the one who set the terms.
Her stepmother forced her to become a scullery maid, and she persevered and learned new skills that came in handy later. Her stepmother tries to have her killed, and she loses what little security the castle has left to offer. She has nothing, but she picks herself up, tells herself she's gonna be okay, and does something about it. Sorry y'all aren't as resilient as Snow White. What did you want? Her to become depressed and make TikToks complaining about her situation while bed rotting? No! She finds a place to stay, and she uses her skills and talents, and she works hard. She's running a household with 7 other people, and for anyone who didn't grow up in a Duggar-sized family, that's an insane amount of work. And I'm sick and tired of people telling women, ooh, it's not empowering to do housework and take care of your family. You know, it's not very empowered girl boss of you to not support other women like that. Snow works hard, and she smiles and sings the whole time. I don't think she complains once this entire movie, but she also doesn't mess around. She's very, very kind about it, but she is firm. And when the dwarves don't want to wash their hands, she tells them, no, that's gross. And no dinner until their hands are clean. No nagging, no screaming, no demanding. She's just very firm. And hygiene is a very useful thing to teach too. Wash your hands, you nasties. Let's see, what's next? Right, Snow White doesn't demonstrate what women are capable of. Well, yeah, she's one character. She can't do everything.
Women, know your limits.
What a mess of a movie that would be. And to be fair, we don't have enough representation of women happily doing housework and enjoying serving others. The only time you see that kind of thing is when they're making a statement like, oh, look at this woman, she's so oppressed and is helping other people. That's a bad thing for some reason. Explain that. So, I don't know, sorry it's not Brie Larson demanding we pretend she's a good character while she bores us to death. I mean, kicks butt and does girl boss things. Seems like if you were really into showing what women are capable of, you would want to show everything women are capable of. Even Snow White. And as far as being fearless, brave, and true, that is possibly the most ridiculous accusation. Snow White was incredibly brave. Did we watch the same movie? Taylor Swift better watch out, because Snow White is so fearless that she doesn't need to tell us, because she shows us. And as far as being true, I don't know exactly what that means, but Snow White is honest. And she was very true to her values. She's even true to her heart. A very Disney-approved message, but also, please question your heart. It can and will lead you astray. But I guess since her heart didn't want fourth-wave feminism and wanted a capable prince instead, her heart is wrong. So very, very wrong.
Being wrong is for women.
Because wanting a relationship with a man or relying on men in any way whatsoever is the worst thing in the world.
Jeez, where'd you think this bozo up?
She does rely on men throughout the story, and I know it's morally evil to ever rely on a man, but she's not without agency. It's probably better to say that she worked with men, because what we see throughout this whole story is that men and women need each other. A novel and offensive idea, I know.
You should write a book. How to offend women in 5 syllables or less.
Throughout the film, there are examples of the strengths and weaknesses of positive femininity and toxic or poisonous femininity, if you will.
No, I will not.
And examples of good and bad masculinity. But the most prominent thing the story focuses on is Snow White's femininity and how it affects those around her. How's that for demonstrating what women are capable of? It's almost like this movie is pro-woman and pro-femininity. Oh my gosh, if I have to say that word one more time. Femininity. Femininity. Ooh. When we're first introduced to Snow White, we see how beautiful and feminine she looks, and I've seen a lot of complaints about how this movie is pro-pretty privilege or perpetuating stereotypes that ugly people are evil and pretty people are good.
He's evil, I guess.
Well, evil, sure, but mostly he's unattractive, and unattractive people are desperate.
But no, that's not the point. That's literally the opposite of the point. Snow White isn't good because she's beautiful because she is good. And we see her actions throughout the film. She is kind, she's brave, hardworking, cheerful, selfless. She serves others without expecting anything in return. These are the things that make her beautiful. She's not just a pretty face. Snow uses her femininity to improve the lives of others. When she lives with the dwarves, she encourages them, teaches them manners and hygiene, runs the house for them. They were living in absolute squalor, but now they're living like kings. She also softens them. When they're around her, they're kinder and more gentle, like her. Everything she brings with her was something that was missing in their lives. We even get to see the weaknesses of her femininity when the queen, in her true form as the old hag, brought her the poison apple. Strengths are often weaknesses, and Snow White was too kind and too compassionate, and it put her in danger. Had the dwarves, men, been there, they would have protected her. That old hag's not getting past Grumpy. I mean, she wouldn't have gotten past me either, but my strengths and weaknesses are very different from Snow White's. And I'm still a woman, and still feminine. We even get to see the positive and negative examples of masculinity in the film. Even though it focuses much more on the positive effects of femininity on men, Snow White wouldn't have made it without the help of men. Oh no. First, the huntsman uses his strength to protect Snow White and defy the evil queen, likely at the cost of his own life, but when Snow White is with the dwarves, they all want to protect her. But obviously there's a huge difference between Grumpy and the rest of the dwarves.
And the rest!
Grumpy's the only one who doesn't immediately trust her, and I've seen him accused of misogyny, and while he does make some just pearly things level sweeping generalizations about all women, unlike many, if not most, of Just Pearly Things takes, not to make a sweeping generalization myself, he actually has a good point. Probably because he's a man. Everyone else kind of simps for Snow, immediately taken in by her beauty. Had she been evil, they would have been fooled immediately. But Grumpy warns us that women are poison.
And all females is poison.
And that sometimes is true.
We have found a witch, may we burn her?
Is it misogyny to point out the truth? I guess if it offends women, but then anything is misogyny, and then I guess nothing is.
And when everyone's super,
no one will be.
The queen looked beautiful on the outside, supposedly, but was poison within. Oh my gosh, just like the apple she made. Outside, she is beautiful, but that means nothing. She's vain, she's power-hungry, demanding, jealous, insecure, vindictive. She doesn't work with the men, or I guess man, in her life, although I guess she did have a husband at some point. I wonder what happened to him. I wonder how many poison apples she's made before. Anyway, she doesn't work with the huntsman. She orders him around. Does she have positive qualities? She has potential, but in this movie, she's all negative, baby. She does work hard, and I'll give her that, but she's working hard at the wrong things. When she turns into the hag, she becomes just as ugly on the outside as she already is on the inside, reflecting her true character. The point is, no matter what you look like on the outside, it's what's in your heart that makes you truly beautiful or truly hideous, which seems like a really good message. I don't know. It's not about passively waiting to be rescued by a man, it's about working together. Snow White took care of herself. She hoped one day her prince would come, and there's nothing wrong with that, but she's also not just waiting around for the prince to rescue her.
I wouldn't be surprised if the man of my dreams walked through that door right now.
Narratively, it makes perfect sense for them to be reunited at the end because the point is men and women need each other. Femininity balances out masculinity. So what better way to end the film than to have her end up with her true love? Not to mention, many little girls love the idea of being a princess and falling in love with a prince, and that's great. Let little girls grow up dreaming of love.
Not gonna be saved by the prince.
She's not gonna be saved by the prince, and she's not gonna be dreaming about true love.
because how horrible would it be for a woman to want to get married and serve a family who loves her and devote her life to raising and influencing the next generation versus being a faceless cog in a corporation that actively hates her?
I want you down in hell. I want you to be a middle manager.
Yay, girl boss. Why can't women just be women? And why are we not encouraging women and men to be their best selves? What kind of message is this? I mean, I guess it makes sense if you want everyone to be alone and unhappy and want to reduce the surplus population.
And decrease the surplus population.
But no one's that evil, right?
Out alone.
Harmful. And loving it.
It's pretty obvious we don't need a remake, and no one wants one anyway. And from what we know of this particular remake, it's not only misunderstanding the source material, it's actively mocking it.
It's so upsetting.
And yes, I know it was originally a German fairy tale, but considering that this is a remake of the 1937 version, I was considering that the source material. Just listen to these interviews.
That's my name, Snow White's up there. To wear Sandy Powell, first of all, insane. And then you get to be lit by Mandy Walker, and Nadia Stacey designed your hair and makeup. It's like the most incredible thing in the world. I saw myself on screen and I just wanted to throw up. I was so happy about it.
The original Snow White is all about inner beauty, and all they can gab about is how excited they are about seeing themselves on screen and wearing pretty dresses. Look, I get it. I would be excited too, but you have roughly 3 minutes to give your audience an impression of your upcoming film, and this is what you're choosing to share? Who's the vain one in the original? Oh right, the evil queen. And again, the obsession with power?
Power.
I mean, we already talked about that, but it's just very evil queen. The one that gets me the most is this clip.
If I'm gonna stand there 18 hours in a dress of an iconic Disney princess, I deserve to be paid for every hour that it is streamed online.
Now give me your money!
You're demanding to be paid a crap ton of money for a terrible movie no one wants to see, and you're complaining about and deriding the source material. How unself-aware are you? I hate you, you're stupid, but give me money, because I deserve it. Money, please. It's not very Snow White of you. I don't know, maybe produce something that's worth paying for instead of giving us garbage and then gaslighting and name-calling the people calling a spade a spade. Or in this case, calling a bad movie a bad movie. The worst part is that the original film was all about being kind and doing things without expecting anything in return. Of course you should get paid for your work, but I don't know, work harder. Give us better films. Your job is to entertain me, and I'm not entertained. Just tell me a good story. Look, I know we're doing subversions of heroes and misunderstood villains in modern films, but this is just so bad. You've completely missed the point of the original film and have given the villain's characteristics, the bad ones, to the hero. Could someone please just subvert my expectations for once and make a good movie, dang it? You can't subvert unless you understand the source material. You can't even mock something properly unless you understand it. The criticism against the original is just so bizarre. It's finding problems that aren't even there and offering solutions that are even worse. Most women aren't outliers. If they were, they wouldn't be outliers. It's just extremely disingenuous to pretend that women are only achieving their true potential if they're one of the very few people cut out for these low availability, high risk positions. As if those are the only jobs of value. A society of only girl boss approved jobs would be untenable.
These sad saps. They come to Rapture thinking they're gonna be captains of industry. But they all forget that somebody's gotta scrub the toilets.
But I guess femininity is perfect all by itself. No masculinity or men needed.
Men are trash, slapping myself right now. Not a fan personally.
Look what happens when society devalues strong families. I just don't understand how people could possibly be upset about the concept of stay-at-home moms. It just makes no sense, and it shows an extreme inability to understand long-term consequences and what the purpose of motherhood is anyway. Strong families make for a strong society, and for strong families, you need women and men. Mature and selfless women and men, so.
Well, we're boned.
You know, the Bible says that men and women are equal in value, but different in ability. Now, that makes so much sense. But who cares about that? Christians are all close-minded, bigoted women haters. But I don't know, maybe there's a place between Greta Gerwig's and just Pearly Thing's ideas of a woman's place. Or we could all just keep on hating each other in lieu of solving any real problems and letting men and women actually be their best selves together. Anyway, Snow White really seemed to know what's up. Let's do more of that. Whew, oh, I'm done now, and I am never doing that again. Just kidding, I already started 5 other videos. And who knows when any of them will be done. A lot of stuff happened while I was putting off working on this. Daily Wire announced their version of Snow White, which, business-wise, I guess seems like a great move. For their sake, I do hope it's good. I mean, I hope Disney's version is good. I want people to succeed, and I want good stories. My concern is that Daily Wire's version is going to have equal and opposite problems. Their teaser trailer was unimpressive, to say the least. But my main concern is that they're also going to just be preaching a message rather than telling a story. If you write a story, your values are going to be apparent. You don't need to, and shouldn't, shove a message in people's faces or, you know, make your story preachy. That's just annoying, whether you agree with the values or not, and it's just lazy and bad storytelling. What I'm saying is, let's not fight garbage with more garbage. I want quality content. And if you want quality content, please don't subscribe. No, seriously, I'm making these videos for Ghosts to watch. So if I ever see more than 1 subscriber on this channel, well.
Honey, you've got a big storm coming.
Snow White is running for president.
I'm launching my campaign.
Snow White for president? I mean, it's better than any of the candidates we got now. But I'm still not voting for this one. I'm voting for the 1937 one. And you know what? I would trust her to lead this country.